You know, I've spent the last 15 years of my life in rooms where the air is filtered, the tables are mahogany, and the people are sharks in three-piece suits. I'm a corporate litigator in Chicago. My job is to handle billion-dollar disputes, dismantle fraud, and look calm while everyone else is panicking. I thought I had seen every kind of liar, every flavor of greed, and every depth of human entitlement. But let me tell you, nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for the moment you drive 8 hours back to the dirt you came from, only to find a 12-foot steel gate blocking your father's farm, manned by two rent-a-cops who tell you that you're banned from the land you were born on. That was the second my anger snapped. But see, when you do what I do, you don't scream. You don't throw a punch. You get quiet. And you start building a case that will tear their world apart, brick by brick. It started on a Tuesday, way too early. My body doesn't even consider consciousness before 7 a.m., but my eyes shot open at 4:30 like someone had struck a match inside my skull. It wasn't a nightmare. It was that heavy, suffocating feeling that something is wrong. The apartment around me was perfect, quiet, modern, 30 floors up, but my mind was 300 miles west. I'd been dreaming about my dad, Silas. In the dream, he wasn't speaking. He was just standing by the old fence line, arms crossed, staring at me with that look he always had, stubborn, disappointed, and immovable as a mountain. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. 3 missed calls already. I picked it up, expecting a client in London or a wrong number. Instead, a woman's voice answered, trembling with that practiced calm nurses use when they're about to deliver bad news. She asked if I was Elias Thorne, son of Silas Thorne. My back straightened instantly. I said yes. She told me my father had been brought into St. Jude's General early that morning. Massive heart attack. Unresponsive. I didn't say anything at first. The last time Silas and I spoke was 3 years ago. It was a shouting match that ended with him telling me I'd abandoned the land and the bloodline, and me telling him he was a relic living in the past. But hearing a stranger say he might die, that hits you in a place you can't armor with a law degree. I told her I was coming, hung up, and moved faster than I have in years. The silk pajamas came off, the stiffest pair of jeans I owned went on, and I grabbed my go bag, half emergency kit, half escape plan. By the time the sun was turning the Chicago skyline gray, I was in my car, heading west. The drive was 8 hours of silence. No radio, no podcasts, just the hum of tires on asphalt and the landscape slowly changing from steel and glass to flat, open fields and windmills. I spent the whole time trying to figure out what happened. Silas was a bull of a man. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, and he worked harder at 70 than most men do at 20. A heart attack didn't make sense unless he was under extreme stress. Somewhere around the state line, I shot a text to Marcus. Marcus is an old friend from law school who took a different path. He went straight to the FBI, specifically the white-collar fraud division. I texted him, heading home. Dad's in the hospital. Something feels off. Heard rumors about a group called Oak Valley Estates buying up land out there. Run a check for me. Marcus is the best kind of friend. He doesn't ask questions, he just digs. He replied 10 minutes later. Oak Valley. Aggressive expansion. Lots of permits pulled recently. Very private. I'll look deeper. That name, Oak Valley Estates, made my stomach turn. I'd heard it in passing from clients. One of those mega HOAs that pop up in rural areas, promising luxury and security, but usually delivering tyranny and bylaws about how tall your grass can be. But my dad's farm was 5,000 acres of cattle and corn. Why would an HOA be sniffing around there? I made it to the hospital just as the afternoon sun was turning the parking lot into an oven. St. Jude's looked tired. Peeling paint, flickering lights. I found Dad in the ICU. Seeing him like that, wires everywhere, his face pale and small against the pillows, it broke something in me. The doctor told me they found him collapsed outside a liquor store on the edge of town. That stopped me cold. Silas hadn't touched a drop of alcohol since 1995. Doc, I said, my father doesn't drink. Was he intoxicated? We're waiting on labs, the doctor said, looking uncomfortable. But he didn't have a wallet. No ID. No keys. Just an insurance card in his pocket. A passerby found him. No wallet. No keys. Found at a liquor store he'd never visit. This wasn't a medical emergency. It was a crime scene. I told the doctor to keep him stable, kissed my dad on the forehead, and walked out. I needed to go to the farm. I needed to find his meds, his papers, anything that would explain this. I expected to see the old wooden gate at the end of the dirt road, the one that leaned a little to the left. What I found was a fortress. A 12-foot steel gate blocked the road, brand new, gleaming in the twilight. It had a keypad, cameras, and a sign that read, Oak Valley Estates, private entry, authorized personnel only. And parked right in front of it was a white SUV with green stripes, flanking two private security guards who looked like they were auditioning for an action movie. I pulled my car up slowly. The taller guard stepped forward, hand resting on his belt like he carried real authority. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked, in a tone that clearly meant turn around and leave. "I'm going to the Thorn Farm," I said. "This is my father's property." The guard smirked. He actually smirked. "Yeah, about that. This land is under HOA jurisdiction now. We're in a transition period. You're not on the resident list." "I didn't ask if I was on a list," I said, my voice dropping an octave. "I am Elias Thorne. My father is in the ICU. I am entering this property to retrieve his medical necessities." "Open the gate." "Look, buddy," the other guard chimed in, chewing gum loudly. "Rules are rules. Oak Valley manages this access point now. Unless you have a key fob or authorization from Patricia Vance, you're turning around." Patricia Vance. That was the name. The Karen to end all Karens. I'd heard stories about her. A real estate shark who rebranded herself as a community manager. "Call her," I said. "Office is closed," the tall one said. "Come back tomorrow. Or never. Preferably never." I looked at the gate. I looked at the guards. I looked at the dash cam in my car, blinking its little red recording light. Strategically, I knew if I rammed the gate right now, they'd have me on destruction of property. They were baiting me. They wanted the angry son to throw a punch so they could lock him up. So I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Enjoy the gate," I said. "I'll be back with something that cuts through steel." I reversed the car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them laughing. Let them laugh. They just gave me the first piece of evidence I needed. I didn't go back to the hospital. I went to the county recorder's office. It was closed, obviously, but I parked in the lot and waited for morning. I slept, if you can call it that, in the driver's seat, running scenarios through my head. If they had a gate up, they claimed ownership. If they claimed ownership, there had to be a paper trail. And if there was a paper trail involving my father, who would sooner cut off his own hand than sell his land, then that paper trail was fake. At 8 a.m. sharp, the doors opened. I walked in and found Mrs. Higgins. She's been the clerk in this county since I was in diapers. She recognized me immediately, though she scolded me for looking so thin. "Mrs. Higgins," I said, leaning on the counter. "I need to see the deed history for the Thorne property. Section 12. Everything filed in the last 6 months." She typed on her ancient computer, squinting. Thorne. Here it is. Looks like a transfer was filed last Tuesday. Notice of property incorporation into Oak Valley Community Association. Signed by your father." My heart stopped. "Let me see it." She printed it out. I stared at the signature. It was shaky. It looked like Silas Thorne, but the loop on the S was wrong. My dad writes with a heavy hand. He carves letters into the paper. This was light, hesitant, like someone tracing. "Mrs. Higgins," I said, "who notarized this?" "Let's see. Notary Public, Daniel Collins." I froze. Daniel Collins? The county surveyor. That's the one. "Mrs. Higgins," I said slowly. "Daniel Collins died 2 years ago. I went to his funeral." Mrs. Higgins turned pale. She looked at the screen, then at me. "Oh my lord. You're right. He passed in 23. And look at the timestamp," I pointed. "Filed at 5:46 p.m. You close at 4 o'clock. "I do," she whispered. "Someone with admin access had to override the system." "Who has admin access besides you?" She hesitated. "The county commissioner and his newly appointed zoning consultant. Patricia Vance." "Bingo. Print it," I said. "Print everything. Certified copies. And print the death certificate for Daniel Collins while you're at it." I walked out of that courthouse with a stack of papers that felt heavy in my hands. It was the weight of a felony. Forgery. Fraud. Elder abuse. I sat in my car and recorded a video statement on my phone. I stated my name, my location, and my intent. I am returning to my father's property under the doctrine of necessity to secure valuables and medical history. I have evidence of fraudulent filings and illegal obstruction. Then I drove back to the farm. The guards were still there. The same smirk. The same arrogance. Back for more punishment, counselor? The gumshoer asked. Open the gate, I said. Or what? Or I enter anyway. You touch this gate, you go to jail, the guard said, putting his hand on his baton. I'm willing to take that chance, I muttered. I reversed the car about 50 feet. I shifted into drive. I floored it. Now, I drive a heavy German sedan. It's built like a tank. When it hit that security gate, the metal screamed. The hinges snapped like twigs. The gate flew open, banging against the fence posts. The guards dove out of the way, shouting, but I didn't stop. I roared up the gravel drive, dust flying, adrenaline pumping so hard I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I pulled up to the farmhouse and killed the engine. It was quiet. Too quiet. I ran up the porch steps. The front door was unlocked. That was the first bad sign. Dad locked everything. I stepped inside, and the rage I felt at the gate was nothing compared to what I felt now. The place had been tossed. Furniture overturned. Drawers pulled out. My dad's desk was gutted. And in the corner of the bedroom, the floorboards had been pried up. That's where he kept the safe. The safe with the original land grant, the cash reserves, and my mother's wedding ring. It was gone. I stood there in the wreckage of my childhood home, realizing this wasn't just a land grab. This was a robbery dressed up as bureaucracy. They knew the forgery wouldn't hold up forever. They needed the original deed to destroy it. Sam. I spun around. It was Jack, our farmhand. He was standing in the doorway, looking terrified. Jack, I said, where's the safe? They took it, Jack said, his voice cracking. 2 nights ago. White box truck. Men in uniforms. They told me if I said anything, they'd burn my cabin down. They said the HOA owns it all now. Where's Bruno? I asked, looking for Dad's dog. He bit one of them, Jack said, looking down. They kicked him pretty bad, Sam. He ran off into the woods. I haven't seen him since. That was it. That was the moment the lawyer turned off and the sun took over. I walked outside, breathing in the cold air, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Sirens wailed in the distance. The guards had called the sheriff. Of course they had. I waited on the porch. When the cruisers pulled up, Sheriff Miller, a man I'd known since high school, a man I thought was decent, stepped out with his gun drawn. Elias Thorne, hands in the air. Sheriff, I said, keeping my hands visible. This is a misunderstanding. I have evidence of fraud. Save it for the judge, Miller barked. You just assaulted 2 security guards and destroyed private property. You're under arrest. They cuffed me. They shoved me in the back of the cruiser. As we drove away, I saw Patricia Vance's car, a sleek black Mercedes, pulling up to the gate I'd smashed. She was on her phone, looking at the damage, looking at me being hauled away. She smiled. A little, tight, victorious smile. They booked me into the county jail. Took my phone, my watch, my belt. They threw me in a holding cell and told me I'd see a judge in the morning. I sat on the metal bench, staring at the concrete floor. It looked like checkmate. I was in a cage, my dad was dying, and the evidence was in my car in the impound lot. But then, around midnight, the heavy steel door clanked open. Visitor, the deputy grunted. Patricia Vance walked in. She looked completely out of place in a jail, wearing a cream-colored suit and pearls. She stood on the other side of the bars, looking at me like I was a zoo animal. Mr. Thorne, she said. Her voice was smooth, like poison honey. This is unfortunate. Is it? I asked. I came to offer you a way out, she said. The HOA is willing to drop the charges. All of them. Assault, destruction of property, trespassing. We'll even forget about the gate. And what do you want in exchange? She slid a paper through the bars. A quitclaim deed. You sign over the remaining interest in the farm to Oak Valley Estates. We'll pay for your father's medical care. We'll make sure he's comfortable. You go back to Chicago, live your life. Everyone wins. I picked up the paper. I looked at it. Then I looked at her. You forged his signature, I said. You used a dead notary. And when that wasn't enough, you broke into his house and stole his safe. Patricia laughed. It was a cold sound. You have an active imagination. And even if any of that were true, who's going to believe you? You're the violent son who rampaged through a security checkpoint. I'm the community leader bringing progress to a dying town. The sheriff is my cousin. The judge is my golf partner. You are nobody here. She leaned in close to the bars. Sign the paper, Elias. Or your father dies a pauper and you rot in prison. I stood up. I walked to the bars. I looked her dead in the eye. You didn't do your homework, Patricia. She frowned. Excuse me. You checked my dad's background. You checked the land value. But you didn't check me. You saw a lawyer and thought desk jockey. You didn't check where I interned before I went corporate. I don't care where you. I interned at the Department of Justice. I said, my voice rising. Fraud section. And I made a lot of friends. The door to the jail block flew open. Federal agents. Nobody moved. Patricia spun around. Marcus, my friend Marcus from the FBI, strode in wearing a windbreaker that said FBI across the back, flanked by 3 other agents. He looked at the deputy, who was reaching for his radio. Don't even think about it, Marcus barked. Unlock this cell. Now. The deputy scrambled for his keys. Marcus walked up to Patricia Vance, who looked like she was about to faint. Patricia Vance. Marcus asked. Who are you? She stammered. You have no jurisdiction here. I have jurisdiction wherever there's wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy to commit interstate theft, Marcus said. We've been tracking Oak Valley's land acquisitions for 8 months. We just needed a concrete link to the illegal seizures. And thanks to Elias here, we got it. Marcus turned to me as the cell door swung open. You get the recording? I pointed to my shirt pocket. Button cam. Standard issue. Got the whole confession. I put it on before I left Chicago. Old habits die hard. Patricia looked at me, horror dawning on her face. You trapped me. You trapped yourself, I said. When you stole my mother's ring. Cuff her, Marcus ordered. They dragged her out screaming. But we weren't done. The safe? I said to Marcus. They have the safe. We know where it is, Marcus said. We tracked the GPS on the security guard's truck. It's at the Greenhaven main office. We rolled out in a convoy. Me, Marcus, and 4 federal vehicles. We hit the Oak Valley office like a hammer. The door didn't need to be unlocked. The battering ram took care of that. Inside, it was chaos. Agents seizing computers, boxing up files. We found the safe in a back room, pried open. I ran to it. It was empty. My heart sank. Sam, Marcus called out from Patricia's private office. I walked in. On her desk, sitting on a velvet display cushion, was my mother's ring. She had kept it. Like a trophy. I picked it up, feeling the cool metal against my palm. I closed my eyes and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 3 days. Then I saw the computer screen. It was open to an email chain. I started reading, and my blood ran cold. It wasn't just an HOA. They were working with a developer to build a massive highway corridor. My dad's farm was the linchpin. If they couldn't buy it, they planned to seize it. And in one of the emails, dated 2 days before Dad's collapse, Patricia wrote, "The old man is stubborn. We need to increase the pressure. Make him break." They had harassed him. They had stalked him. They had threatened him until his heart gave out. They tried to kill him, I whispered. And now they're going to bury themselves, Marcus said. The trial was short. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged deeds, the dead notary, the stolen property, the wiretaps. Patricia Vance turned on everyone to save herself, but it didn't work. She got 17 years. The sheriff, her cousin, was indicted for corruption and obstruction of justice. But the real ending didn't happen in court. 3 weeks later, I was standing on the porch of the farmhouse. The steel gate was gone, ripped out, and sold for scrap. The sun was setting over the cornfields, painting everything in gold. Dad was sitting in his rocking chair. He was frail, but he was home. "You know," he said, his voice raspy. "I thought you left because you hated this place." "I left because I didn't want to be you," I admitted, sitting on the step. "I didn't want to be trapped." Dad looked out at the land. "Land doesn't trap you, Sam. It anchors you. There's a difference. I didn't know how to teach you that without shouting." "We're both pretty good at shouting," I smiled. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the ring. "I think this belongs in the family." Dad took it. He held it for a long time, tracing the diamond with his thumb. "She would have loved to see you tear that gate down," he chuckled. Just then, there was a rustle in the bushes. A dog limped out. Matted fur, skinny, missing a patch of hair on his side. "Bruno," Dad whispered. The dog froze, then let out a yelp and hobbled toward us. Dad got out of his chair, painfully slowly, and knelt down in the dirt. The dog buried his head in Dad's chest. I watched them, the old man and his dog, reunited on the land that almost killed them both. I didn't go back to Chicago. I go back for meetings, sure. I kept my job, but I work remotely now. I built a house on the West Ridge, far enough away that Dad and I don't drive each other crazy, but close enough that I can see his porch light on at night. I kept the spot where the steel gate used to be. I didn't rebuild the fence. Instead, I tilled the earth there. I planted sunflowers, thousands of them. My mom's favorite. Now, when you drive down our road, you don't see a barrier. You see a wall of gold, 6 feet high, swaying in the wind. A living reminder that some things can't be bought, bullied, or stolen. And if anyone from an HOA ever drives down this road again, thinking they can take what's ours, well, let's just say I kept the dash cam. And I've got plenty of room in the sunflowers. So, here's my question for you guys. We all have that place we ran away from. That place we swore we'd never go back to. But if that place, and the people in it, were threatened, would you have the courage to go back and fight? Or would you keep driving? Think about it. And while you're thinking, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about your craziest neighbor story, and remember, read the fine print, check the signatures, and never, ever underestimate a farmer's son with a law degree. This is Elias Thorne. Thanks for listening.